3, 2, 1.
You're now watching Two Old Farts Making Noises.
Well, here we go. It's the man that promises you nothing and delivers. It's the veritable man motor mouth. It's Road Woods who feels the need to call himself Rob Vega. It somehow makes him feel important. Anyway, do have a listen and try not to throw up.
Gotta love that the Queen Elizabeth did that right before she died. Wow, that is really nice. You don't get a lot of that.
Allegedly, Stephen. Allegedly.
Allegedly. I tell you, when I was in Europe, though, I said to a guy, "Can you take me to Big Ben?" And he said, "Come by this club later." And I was like, "That's the wrong Big Ben." So there you go.
Yeah.
So my gay cousin was very upset. I had a gay cousin who was upset. He went to London and asked for Big Ben, and he took him to the clock, and he was very upset. So yeah.
Well, it's actually the bell, so you couldn't say it anyway.
The clock is not Big Ben. It's the bell. That's
the bell, right?
The bell. Yeah.
Everybody thinks that's Big Ben.
So if you have a big bell, of which there are quite a few in politics these days,
right.
they could all be called Ben. So he's a bit of a Ben. He's a bit of a Ben Bell. Then let's leave it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. No bell and then end or Ben or bent or okay. Moving on. Right. Okay.
Moving on. Yes. So since we've last seen you, the world has changed greatly in the last
Hasn't Stephen? Hasn't he's still in darkness.
He's still in darkness. Yes, in South Africa. Okay. Well, the world for him hasn't changed. It's still in darkness.
Oh yeah. Well, I got power, so I'm good. But around me, well, it's obviously it's 3:00 in the afternoon, so there is light from the sun, but not from lights in houses and things like that. But I'm fine. I've got power. I'm an elite. I'm one of the elite. Steve, Dave, I'm the elite. Yeah. What can I say?
Are you being supported by some Japanese generation company then? Is that the way it works?
Chinese, actually.
Chinese.
Oh, China. Oh. Is it listening to what you're saying while you have it on?
It's in another room, so I made sure of that. It's fine. It's great. It's okay. So if it was, it would be way too loud. So you know what spies do? They turn on the bath and think all the taps or the faucets, whatever you call it, and shh. I've got a generator that does that, so we're good.
Nice. Since we started to record, his reception or to us has gotten worse. So because the Chinese overlords don't want him to actually speak about stuff. But we've got cool topics. Yeah, I know, right? We've got cool topics today. We can talk about ChatGPT and Alibaba, talking about Chinese companies. Alibaba said this week in the news that they're coming out with their own AI to go up against ChatGPT. I think it's Brad from Google with thumbnail, and everybody else. And the other thing I have a problem with AI, just so we're clear, is everybody's throwing money into it like they did with crypto algorithms, and no one's doing any due diligence. Like there's billions of dollars being thrown into it, and they're all going to, when it implodes, they're going to be like, we didn't know.
Steve, I read recently, half-heartedly, that they asked one of these AI services, I'm not sure which one it was, chat or whatever, and said, how would you go about destroying humanity? Did you read about that? And,
that's the New York Times guy.
Yeah, and it went through all the lists, and one of them was, which was very interesting, it would hook up with other AIs, and they would team up. That's a little, wow, okay.
Are they forming a union then? Is that what's going to happen? It's going to be the union of AIs, like Teamsters.
Left field. That was quite it. I mean, it's a good strategy. It is, but can you imagine all these things combined? I mean, I don't know. Skynet, here we come.
Well, I think the interesting part about it is like, not that I'm a fan of Elon Musk, but Elon Musk and even the guys at Google and everybody are saying we should slow down the AI, and we should do this and we should do that. I think because they're trying to develop a better one and they just want no competition. But to another part, they're all like, what happens if? And it's the what if game. What if it's already too late? You've already let the cow out of the barn, the genie's out of the bottle. It's like AI is already doing what it's going to do. and it thinks faster apparently than we do, let's say. And now when quantum computing comes into effect, you put that with AI, it's over. So I'm just waiting for the new. I'm waiting for the new overlords. I'm just.
I read something about the Chinese AI is going to be very limited as well because they're going to control everything. So you're not going to be able to get as should we say, as maybe not so much stupidity as I'm able to get out of it at the moment. But
well, yeah, because even TikTok in China, when kids go to TikTok in China, it's like how to be a doctor, how to be a lawyer, how to be a politician. When kids in America go to TikTok, it's like, look at this stupid dance move. Look at me in sexy dress. Look at me, my car. Look at this. It's like there's nothing educational on it. So that's the difference, the way China runs their social media and the rest of the time runs their social media.
It's really enlightening for you to tell us what you do at the weekend, Stephen. But there you go.
I have a 12-year-old stepson. And so my 12-year-old stepson will be on TikTok. And I'm like, what the heck? What are you watching? He goes, it's TikTok. Look. And I'm like, it's the dumbest thing in the world. And Instagram's no better, even though we have to be on all this social media for us. But I don't look at it. I just post. I'm like, yeah, we're good. It's like, I'm glad people like what we post, but I don't watch this stuff. I'm like, it's just mind numbing. I'm like, you watch this? He goes, yeah. And my friends in school watch it. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
yeah, but is this not like we discussed before? Is this not like, when we had playing cards, Swapsies cards, like baseball or soccer cards or whatever? Isn't that the same thing? You had something to, some sort of currency. And we've discussed this before.
But I think like when I was a kid, we had a baseball card though. But you had a baseball card. You had that's different.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
If I've seen that movie and you haven't, that'd still give me still a one up for me, isn't it? Have you seen this TikTok film?
Not really. I figure you got nothing to do with your life.
Okay, well, that's so true. If not, I wouldn't be on this show. But
that's true. So, no, I'm not.
I think too much about it. I don't think it's that deep at all. It's mindless crap, and that's why people love it. It's the same with reality TV. You don't have to think. That's why it is popular. It's simple as that. It's the lowest common denominator, and that's why it's appealing. It's easy. It's quick. It's gratifying. Ha! Next clip. Here we go. That's it. Done. There's nothing more to it than that. That's TikTok. That's Snapchat. That's Instagram. That's pretty much everything.
Right. Except the Two Old Farts Entertainment Channel. This is education. Yeah, that's right. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers. So we wish all our subscribers geniuses, by the way, all triple IQ points. Yeah, so, yeah.
Bloody hell! Wow.
Yeah. We're fastest growing entertainment channel on YouTube. You know how I know that? I just said it. It's on the internet. It's true.
Let's go, Stephen. Pump it into that digital concrete, mate. Get it in there. He said it. That's how it is.
It's true.
I feel like this means we should improve our production values somewhat.
Yes, we should. So, well, we will. Listen. We're just happy we have people that subscribe, and I have a large family. All of the Jews. So no, we do actually our shows. But here's what I found: the people that do leave comments, like we post our shows on Facebook, we post our shows, of course, on YouTube. We put little snippets throughout. People actually like it because of what it is, because it really is just people's thoughts, right? It's not that stupid, but we do say things that they may not know. They enjoy it, like the guy who does the art show. People are like, wow, they really like it. This show, Sermon from the German, they all like it because it's people expressing their feelings or their thoughts without a governor, without having to worry about a repercussion of being we don't care. We can't cancel us. No one knows who we are. Like 10,000 of them do, but that's it, right? So you can't cancel us. Yeah.
We're not worried about being sponsored by our sponsors canceling.
Right. We only have two sponsors.
We're at the bottom of the barrel. It doesn't get lower. It's fine.
That's right.
We're good.
That's why we have expectations are really low is our motto, because we know what we are, right? But seriously, that's why people like the show, because it's just a fun. Hey, I was thinking that, but I would never say it because my wife, my husband, I can't say it in school, right? So yeah.
I think people are tired.
Well,
I think folks are tired of pretentiousness. They tired of. It's almost as if you almost don't even have to have any content, but whatever it is that you say has to be delivered in a real way. Whatever it is, it can be bullshit, but if it's real bullshit, that's fine. But if it's sugar-coated, nice stuff, people go, I'm not interested. I don't want to hear dishonesty. I don't want to hear someone making shit up just to somehow appease me or deliberately piss me off. They don't. I think that is unbelievably annoying. It's fake stuff. That is scripted garbage bollocks, and that is what most of the entertainment channels are. So,
well, maybe that should be the title of our next show: "Scripted, Made-Up Bollocks." That sounds like a great name for a show to me.
Hey, all right. Well, we can do that.
I'm going to go register that now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Scripted, Made-Up Bollocks. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Oh, so
talking of bollocks, Mr. Insert Name here. Before we came on, you were having a bit of an ANC rant, were you not?
Oh, well, of course, you see, in this wonderful, it is a great country. That's the problem. People who come here really enjoy it. It's very friendly. It's got the most unbelievable climate. I mean, these are things everybody knows. Steve knows. He's been here. It's got a great climate. It's big. It's a big country. There's lots of space, and it's a pretty easy life. But it's complicated by stupidity, idiotic politicians, strange alliances, people harking back to the past, people looking to blame other people. I mean, you could say that's a worldwide problem, but it really is unnecessary here. We've got tons of goodwill. People want to do things, and yet there's always somebody trying to stir up crap. And when it comes to the ANC, look, apartheid was terrible. No one thinks that was a good idea. Maybe the people from 50 years ago, but the folks here, we're all on board. No, goodbye, cheers. In fact, 30, 40 years ago, in the late 80s, I was there running up and down stairs, having the nationalist police shoot what they call rubber bullets at us. And sometimes there were the D batteries that were put in their things. I didn't get hit, fortunately, but I used to run fast. We all used to do that. We were in these protest marches. We were part of that. We thought, come on, this is ridiculous. Get rid of this apartheid thing. So for 30 odd years, it's never been a thing. No one thinks it's a good idea. And the ANC at the time was probably the leading movement. It was a great liberation movement. It was the party of Nelson Mandela. It was the party of negotiation, and it needed to do what it did. It led the charge against apartheid. That was finally gone, and that's great. But it's kind of like they got stuck right there. So you run to the principal's office or the CEO's office, and you put him up because he's an idiot. And then suddenly you got to run the company, and you suddenly realize, oh, wait, I don't know anything about running a company. I just wanted him gone. And we've had 30 years of these people trying to pretend that they know what they're doing. Now, instead of saying, look, get people in who know what they're doing. Let's not worry about the past. Let's not just get rid of groups of people, because that was the big drive. With apartheid, there were a lot of white folk who ostensibly got privileges and jobs, things like that. And they said, right, wholesale, you're all gone. Now, the problem with that is politically, that made sense. But economically, it was idiotic, because these folks, not necessarily, they weren't necessarily the ones that were part of the system that had benefited from it. But instead of saying, let's work with you, they just got rid of all of them. So anyway, that happened. Also, at the same time, you had people like the former Soviet Union forming alliances with the ANC. A lot of the ANC, what do they call them? The soldier guys, or freedom fighters, they call them. Some people used to call them terrorists, some people used to call them freedom fighters, depends which side of the argument you're on. Anyway, they were trained in the Soviet Union in tactics, and there was a strong connection between the former Soviet Union and the African National Congress. This is a documented fact. You can go look at it. And as time went by, obviously the Cold War ended, and then we had Russia and the breakup of the Soviet Union, and most of Russia was, there, and the ANC are here. And now, with what Russia's doing, obviously the rest of the world is going, what are you doing? But the ANC are saying, listen, we've been mates for decades. Why would America, why would Europe tell us that we must just cut this friendship off? And the problem is, it's an ANC thing. It's not a South Africa thing. People in this country are mortified. They're saying, listen, we don't want to be, we have to take a stand. We are not part of this. We are not supporting this. Even if Russia was your friend, if your friend behaves in a certain way, you got to call them out. You don't have, no one's saying that the ANC has to break ties, but they should be making statements. They should be making comments and saying, listen, this is really not cool. I mean, 99% of the world can see that. Obviously, 1% can't. And what it's going to do, what everyone here is worried about in this country is concerned, is that people are going to go, oh, South Africa, so you are in bed with all these people. And when the dust settles on the invasion, they're going to look at the country and go, you were doing military exercises with China and Russia, and this is not good. And yet we support you economically. You might not do that in future. I mean, it's scary. It's very frightening. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Cheers.
But do you think that China and Russia are queuing up? Then are they stoking the fire so that they can just to bring the Western world to this point, so enables them to jump in afterwards? Because if that money disappears, there's going to be new money from somewhere. Where would that come from? China, probably.
Okay. Well, what is true is that Western countries, and when I say Western countries, I'm talking Europe, the United States, and Australia, but mainly the US and Europe. Those are our trading partners. That's where the economies happen. That's where money happens, and we are linked to that. There's no question about it. Russia doesn't. There's such a small part, if anything, of our economic situation, and we are forming alliances. The consumers amongst economists is that we are forming alliances with the wrong people. We're putting out the wrong message, and it is not going to be good for us. China, with all due respect to China, is interested in China. That's fine. They look out for themselves. They have economically colonized giant chunks of Africa. They've invested. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy, not at all. I get why they're doing it. They've just quietly infiltrated Africa. They've built communication networks. They have formed alliances with governments. It's not something that other countries in the West didn't do. So that's fine, I suppose. I don't know. It keeps an open mind with China. I'm not sure what the story there is, but it's very clear that the Western world, even if you want to take your opinion out of the Western world, countries in the West are not happy with what's going on in Ukraine, and they blame Russia for it. That is just a fact. There it is. And now we've got South Africa here it looks like we're forming some sort of I don't know what it is, an alliance with them. It's not a military thing, but it just doesn't look good. We're playing in Russia's bedroom, and we are saying we're friends, and it just is concerning for a lot of people in this country, because this is not what the majority of people here think. Some of them don't care, but the ones that do are certainly do not hold that position. So I don't know, it's worrying. You got to be careful who you make friends with. Very careful. So I don't know. Not sure. It's worrying. What is interesting is that we've had submarines docking. We had a Russian submarine docking in Cape Town about 3 months ago, and it left. No one knows why. They've been doing what do you call them, like war games, things like that. What the Chinese and the Russians and the South Africans have been doing. I don't know what. We don't have a bloody navy to talk of. So I'm not sure what they were doing. Were we just scrubbing their decks? I don't know. So who knows? Not sure. Yeah. I may be wrong. Maybe we've got something I don't know about. So
I think unfortunately the world is changing. Russia, I don't think, has any economic power. They've got knowing the military power, because you couldn't beat Ukraine. And Ukraine's got two guys with sticks, right? So I think China's has always been the kid on the block, and I'm going back thousands of years. Like in the 1400s, like they stopped Zhao in 1412. Zhao said, "No more are we going to explore the world." He's the one from like 14 to 1412 that was sending out their massive ships or vessels, if you will, exploring the world and trading with everybody. Before Columbus, before Magellan, and they traveled everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then they closed off. So now, once again, they've opened up the world since, Deng Xiaoping, and they're like, let's do this, let's do that. And they look what we're doing. And now all of a sudden it looks like they want to close off again. So it's going to be very interesting, I think, to see politically and economically what they're going to do. But they're the only ones that have money. Russia has no money per se. And any money that anybody from Russia had is all being locked up, unless you're in the UAE or Saudi Arabia.
I must just add this, because I don't want people to get anyone to get the wrong idea. This is not me casting an opinion. I understand why China's doing what they're doing. I don't have a major beef with them. I don't. I can see they're an extremely old civilization. They're obviously extremely proud. We've got a very large Chinese population in South Africa, and they seem pretty happy, and they unbelievably hardworking folk. We've got a lot of products. I mean, most of the stuff we have here is all Chinese made. They certainly have the ability to mass produce things like nobody else. They definitely someone one can work with, but that's I'm just talking economics now. Politically, they've never really involved themselves in this country or any country in Africa. All I've seen them do in Africa, I don't speak for the rest of the world, in Africa, is economic involvement. And they have put resources, money, people, perhaps they've got a long-term goal. I don't know.
Yeah,
some say
they call it it's the Belt and Road It's the Belt and Road program. So what they do is they go into an underdeveloped country and they loan them money and give them technology, and their interest rates are like nothing. At some point they can't pay it back. And then at that point, it'll be interesting to see what happens, right? Well, it's kind of hard for a country like you got the IMF, which that's a joke. But anyway, you have all these agencies that can help a country. But China comes in, like when we were doing deals in South America, they came into one country and they literally said, we'll build a railroad for you from like end to end. And I was like, well, this is interesting.
But that's China. And when it comes to Russia, I mean, there's some folks here, Russian people that live here in South Africa. In fact, one guy I actually train with. These weights and stuff. And I get he's got a daughter who's living in Moscow, and he is the story. Look, I'm not going to quote him, but he is absolutely mortified by what's going on. He says you need to understand that there is a total the information bubble in Russia is completely different to what you and I and the rest of the world are seeing. There is complete media control. So this is not about the Russian people. This is not a beef against Russian people, even the ones that Putin is the greatest. If you realize what they're being told and you realize that's their only source of information, you have to be objective about how they're getting information. Obviously, we don't agree with it, but he said he's managed to move in and out of the country, and he said it is disturbing. He's trying to get his daughter out. He owns the apartment she's in. He's trying to sell it, can't sell it. He says there's lots of stores that are closed. But the people there, he said, are certainly the older folk they absolutely adore Putin. You need to understand that they do, and they think they almost seem like a king as a protector of their identity. And he said the sad thing is he doesn't think he actually foresees that Russia's either going to get totally put down like they did with Germany after the First World War, or it's going to get broken up, or it'll be gone. You know, the Russian identity. I mean, there are kids leaving Russia. They're leaving in their droves, the ones that can get out, and are renouncing their citizenship and Georgian citizenship. You know, there was that ballerina who went to Germany somehow and said, that's it, I'm applying for German citizenship. And it's pretty sad for the country. He said it's really sad. He's not sure what it will mean to be Russian in, say, 50 years' time. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I think the bigger issue, I think the issue is going to be, it's like I'm like, having been to Russia, most of the people don't care like what's going on. They care when there's the food lines or whatever, but Putin's an oligarch. Let's just be frank. Like that's not Russia. It's Putin's land. So, you know, Putin land doing what Putin wants to do. So whether you like it or not, it is what it is. So that's I think a bigger issue. So people are like, I need to get my kids out. I need to get this. I need to get that. That's a little different than like the old school guys that are like, oh, we really like what you're doing because, you know, they're Putin's buddy. So I think that has a lot to do with it, or they're getting something from Putin. But I think what's ending up happening is you have, you know, we're making ties in the U.S. with Taiwan. China doesn't like that. So now China's doing war games in the ocean, in the Indian Ocean too, with our ships, like against them, so to speak. And you've got that going on. You've got Russia and China. I think China's trying to get as many friends as they can to go, if we attack Taiwan, meaning China, you know, we need friends, because I think that's an all-out war then. And, you know, Taiwan's being prepared for it. There was an article in the FT a couple of days ago about the Indian Ocean that like everyone's forgotten about it. Now lately there's like every country in the world has got their vessels going through there, like military, to make sure that they can, you know, they can do it. So it's really becoming this. It's like football, right? It's a land acquisition game, and that's kind of what seems to be happening. It's like there's nothing else to take. Let's go take this. Let's go take that. Yeah, go take the moon. Go, you know, go whatever. But I mean, that's kind of where we're headed. We're headed to, it's like we can't live peacefully apparently as a human race. We've got to have conflict, which is the dumbest thing in the world. We're all stuck here together.
Talking about peace, Stephen, it hasn't been a very nice time in the US. Like, you know, bank employees shooting a whole lot of people. You talked early on, you know, I mean, you know, why? That's totally above me. And then you were saying yourself about what's happening in Tennessee. That was all kicking off. So, you know, with an element of racism around it. So,
well, Tennessee again had a shooting. Go figure, at a school, and 3 state senators, 2 black gentlemen and a white lady, got up and made a you know, like, we should ban firearms, we should do this, and they were speaking about it. And I'm like, all right, this is good. But I guess one of the black gentlemen, and I don't know, I only saw what I read in the newspapers and what I've seen on the news. So if he's listening, come on our show, you can tell the story. But he was on a megaphone apparently. And so the state senators passed a resolution that he and the other black gentleman have to be kicked out of the state Senate. The white lady was not kicked out of the state Senate. So the 2 black gentlemen have been kicked out. They have to run for re-election or whatever it is. And
I think the one guy's back.
It's okay. I'm sorry?
I think the guy's been readmitted. The one guy's been readmitted.
But how can you do that if you've been democratically elected? You can't. You know, committee just can't say. You know,
dude, it's Tennessee. They don't even know the Civil War happened. Are you kidding? There's a guy when you enter the state of Tennessee that's like bing, 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 you know, from Deliverance. And also in Tennessee, when husband and wife divorce, they're still brother and sister. I mean, this is not like, you know, a progressive state. They still think they're living in like this 1800s. I mean, and the thing that annoyed me about the whole process, and even John Oliver covered this on his show on HBO, is the head of the Senate said, we don't see color. And I'm thinking to myself, let me get this straight. I've got an Oreo here. I got a black, a white, and a black. I got an Oreo cookie, and basically you're getting rid of the 2 cookies and keeping the cream. Yeah, I see color. I mean, like, I know you say you don't, but you do. If it was 3 white people, nothing, I bet you would have happened. So that's
it's funny.
Why
it's how it's been reported here in Europe as well. Exactly that it's racist.
Do you think? I mean, it obviously didn't happen. But if she had been expelled as well,
Yep.
How would that change the conversation? If
There would be no conversation. You know why? Because then the 3 people that were up there got expelled.
Right.
Wouldn't have mattered about color. It wouldn't have mattered about sex. Now I'm going to pull back after I say all this, right? Everyone would be like, oh, okay, it was fair. Then what would have happened would have been, forget the 2 black gentlemen. It would have been the white lady got kicked out because she's a woman. So we wouldn't be talking about color. We would be talking about sex because our country, bunch of pussies, have to complain and whine about something.
So what is the issue? I mean, did they kick them out because of the way they were behaving or the point they were trying to make? What is the thing? Because I know apparently the 3 of them wanted some. I don't know about banning firearms. I mean, I didn't see the entire article, but it was something to do with firearms control. They wanted some sanity to prevail, given what had just happened. Like, guys, this is enough now. Let's do something. Wasn't that really the thrust of what they were trying to say?
Yeah, they wanted to ban like the AR-15, the one that they used to shoot up the school, right? They went in and shot with these. So they were like, let's ban assault rifles. And God forbid if you don't have your assault rifle, because I know when I go shopping in Texas, if I don't like something, you just shoot somebody here, it's legal, and that's fine. But you got to have your assault rifle to take out a village. So that was the crux of it. The one gentleman had a megaphone, and I guess he was saying he was speaking to the cheap seats, the people that got in, I guess so they could hear him. And they were saying, the head of the Senate was saying like that would incite violence or a riot. And I'm thinking, these people couldn't beat up a clover, a 4-leaf clover. They couldn't beat up a daisy. They had signs saying end violence, don't kill people. They're the last people that are probably going to do anything. And they were like, he was inciting anything. He was what? Freedom of speech, which apparently in America means if you're a black person, you don't have freedom of speech unless you're not in Tennessee stand. I don't know. To me, I thought it was ridiculous. I was very annoyed. I don't think any of them should have been anything. If anything, you go, bad boy, don't use a megaphone. And you'd be like, oh, okay, nobody would have cared. But what the state of Tennessee and their Senate did here, in my opinion, is now they've made the state have a black eye, pardon the pun. And the other thing that they did is they called attention on something which I'm assuming they did not want attention on, because it's been covered on. Bill Maher's covered it, John Oliver's covered it, Jon Stewart's, everybody's speaking about it. It's kind of like if the whole world is now like Tennessee is a bunch of race. Now I have a friend who lives in Tennessee, nicest guy in the world. As far as I know, he's not a racist. Except for the guy in the lawn ornament. No, I'm just kidding. But not a racist. And so, like, he's shocked and mortified, but he's just like, oh. But it's no different than when you look at, like, Ron DeSantis in Florida doing stupid stuff with banning books and doing this and doing that. It's like, what happened to sensibility? Like, we've lost sensibility. See, they're calling right now. So, but we've lost the sensibility of like just being people and thinking. Like, if I was the head of the Senate in Tennessee and he had the megaphone when it was done, I don't know his name. We'll call him Bob. I go, Bob, listen, that's great. Just don't do a megaphone because, there's a rule in the House, yada, yada, yada. And Bob would have been like, okay, I won't do that next time. All done, nice and quiet, and we go. But they made this public spectacle, which is ridiculous. So
they never gave him, so what you're saying is they never gave him some sort of a warning. It's like, please don't do that. And then he said, screw you, and carried on. And that didn't happen.
They never, as far as I know, that from the video that I saw and from the whole thing, it's not like they were like, like the Sergeant of Arms came running up to him and goes, you can't use this, give it to me. And he fought with him. No, they just like, after it was done, we're going to basically kick you out. So I'm glad they reinstated the one gentleman. The lady never got anything, so it didn't matter. So the guy, I'm assuming, with the megaphone is the gentleman then that didn't get reinstated. But to me, it's like, why would you kick him out anyway? He was just expressing his freedom of speech.
So 2 things. One thing I do know about the American Constitution and society is, never mind, the right to bear arms. Freedom of speech is supposed to be absolute, even if you don't like how or what the person is saying. That is the whole. I think that's pretty much the point of freedom of speech, because it's not prepared. Let me just see what you're going to say speech, or do I agree with it? Freedom means I am free to say anything. you obviously have the freedom to reply. But there's nothing about how you're supposed to express it, when you're supposed to express it, what you're supposed to say. Just that's the first thing. Otherwise, it's not freedom of speech. Not at all.
Right.
It either is or it isn't. That's the first thing. Second of all, I'm surprised, well, probably will. They'll probably appeal and say freedom of speech, bugger off, goodbye, boss of the Senate, or whatever the hell it is. Surely. Some lawyer is going to go, hang on a second. Number one. Number two, you mentioned the AR-15. This is the same bloody weapon. When I lived in Connecticut, Adam, whatever his name is, Lanza, was the guy that shot up there in Newtown, and one of his weapons was this bloody AR-15, which is what these people use all the time, and people come back. Look, I understand American history. I understand what the deal is with the right to bear arms. And if you actually study American history, strangely, you will see what those weapons were. When they say right to bear arms, when they made that law, when they put that in, that amendment, they were talking about a thing that you refilled, and it was one shot, and it was, you know, it was a pretty basic weapon, not a freaking AR-15. And why do ordinary citizens need an AR-15? If you've got a Glock or something and it's for self-defense, fair enough. What the hell do you need? What this one kid apparently now at the Louisville thing, he legally bought this thing a week before. Steve, explain to me how, and I'm sure, I mean, I've already had this conversation with people, and so have you, but you know, someone who hasn't, how or why would someone go to a gun shop and say, you know what, I've got my ice cream, I've bought my subscription to a magazine or whatever, and I think I'm also going to buy an AR-15. For what? What do you need an assault weapon for? What for? What do you need it for? And why is it
killing all the bears? I take it. I think that's probably what it was. I found that the most frightening thing when I was in the US, you know, that you'd see a pickup truck, and in the back window of the pickup truck would be this huge rifle, you know, of various caliber. Yeah, I found that quite disturbing, and seeing people carrying arms as well when you're not used to it.
Well, let me help you out. Ron DeSantis just made it now that you can carry a weapon in Florida, I don't think without a permit. Like, I think it's a concealed weapon. You don't need a permit anymore. I know in Arizona they have what they call open carry. So a guy can look like he's from the West, and with a gun belt, you can carry your, you know.
Oh, this was in Iowa when I saw this.
Right, but I'm just saying, I understand. Like, I understand weapons if you want to go hunting. I understand you want to protect your house, but I don't see where I need an AR-15. I'm not expecting an invasion, and if an invasion happens, I don't want to be rude or anything, but I'm going to assume most of these guys who have their weapons, if somebody starts shooting back at them, is probably not going to stand there and keep shooting at them unless they were in the military, because that's what you're trained for. But a normal civilian being shot at, I don't see standing there and shooting. I mean, they may, but I just don't get it. And not that listen, I have no problem with weapons. I think they're great. I think if you keep them locked, but I just don't think AR-15s are something that a person needs. I don't, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're a collector, great, it's behind the cage. But like when you can go in and you're 18 or 19-year-old kid and you're like, I need 6 AR-15s, a shotgun. Oh, you got a bazooka? I want the bazooka. And the guy's like, sure, because he's looking at, I just sold $5,000 worth of, you know, weapons. I make a commission or whatever. They're not like, so like, what are you going to use? How you doing? I like the States, at least with like a 3 or 5 day cooling period where they do a background check. I think that's cool, you know. But some of these things you just go in and buy.
Steve, here's the thing. Here's an analogy which I draw. So when they spoke about the right to bear arms, when the amendment was drawn up back in the day, because this is an old amendment, way back. Okay, when they drew it up, they were talking. So let's make it about cars. They said, right, Steve, you can drive a four-door sedan with a trunk or a boot, and that's it. You have the right to drive a car, right? There you go, because you need to be mobile. You have the right to own a car, boom. So what has basically happened now is people have said, so I can buy a tank then. I can buy a tank. Why can't I buy a tank? Because that's it's got wheels and it's mobile and it's got a, you know, and I move around and, well, it's bigger, but, you know, it's the same thing. An AR-15 next to one of those bayonet-type weapons is the same as some idiot driving a tank and saying, I have the right to drive a car. Yes, you do. You have the right to drive a car. But what are you going to do with a tank in Connecticut, for instance? What do you need that for? It's ridiculous.
But also the right to bear arms when they were doing it was so the Morse could go and fight, like, you know, the British and like an invasion type of thing.
I'm interested in that. I mean, does anybody know what happened? I'm not being facetious, but happened before that point. Obviously, it was put in the Constitution so that people could protect themselves, maybe protect, you know, the new nation state. But was it illegal before then to bear arms? Is that the reason why they then said, those guys won't allow you to do it, but we will? Is that how it came about, or is it just
so? Because they always
protect
had
the new
arms
nation state?
No, I think they always had arms because they had to go hunting and do whatever. I mean, like anything you read, you know, they always had a rifle, a long rifle, like Davy Crockett. All these people had stuff, I think. And before that, when the settlers came, they had their muskets and whatever. So I don't think it was ever you weren't allowed. I think that they put it in there because they said, okay, we just got our freedom from, you know, the UK and Europe. We should make our citizens have that right. And I think today they take that to they take that to a big extreme about right to bear arms.
Yeah, and it's also got to do with a fear of big government as well.
Correct.
Because my understanding of that process you described is, I mean, the US looked vastly different from the way it does today. You know, there were 13 states or whatever it was in the original country, and there were, you know, it wasn't like you could pick up a mobile phone and call someone in New York if you were in Florida, for example. Right. You know, there was communication lines, and they weren't sure who was who and what. Were you from the government? Was the government trying to take my stuff? And there was a lot of suspicion, and they just wanted to make people, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but they wanted to give people the confidence that they were allowed to defend themselves in their territory from invaders, from possibly a government that had been, I don't know, everyone was just really paranoid and shit scared, not really different from what we have now. But it was just a question of poor communication, and they just wanted to make sure that people wouldn't get locked up. As you say, Steve, it wasn't like it wasn't illegal, but people wanted to make sure they had the support of the law if they did defend themselves, because it was still a new colony, and they were still very much in a state of flux and war. There was suspicion, there was baddies, there was goodies. No one knew. But now,
so that just kind of almost brands it, into the DNA of Americans. Then, if you have an issue, you get your gun. And nobody seems to be too concerned about that.
Because if you look at the early 19th century, like from 1900 to say 1960, nobody ran around getting their guns to take care of issues. Like there were none of these issues we had. These issues started in the 80s with Columbine. That was the first big time, the school shooting in Colorado in the 80s. And I think a lot of it has to do with the video games. A lot of it has to do with television. A lot of it has to do with no parenting. But before that, people didn't run around. People used to joke, oh, they went postal. There'd be shootings. But now, literally, my news alerts, I get news alerts constantly. And every other news alert is a shooting here or shooting there. Like the other day, there was one in Kentucky. Last week, there was the one in Tenn. It's like every day there's another shooting. And it's
it's huge this year already, isn't it? It's already broken all the records this year. The mass shooting.
Have you seen? There's a theme, and I might get called out on this, but there's definitely a theme with all the shooters. Have you noticed what color they are, what age they are, what gender they are?
Yeah,
I'm just putting out. I'm not saying there seems to be a preponderance of white men.
Yeah, and the most disturbing thing about it as well is they feel they also have to live stream it. Yeah. So maybe they feel so lost in the world they're living in that like the guy was asked why he shot John Lennon because he said, "I want to be as famous as he was." Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a very much that, isn't it?
It's the 15 minute of fame BS, which is ridiculous. Which I don't know. Like I said, it's a much different world. Even going out, no matter where I am on the planet, when I go out, always in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if? Like I look at exits now. I look at this. I look at that. You know, it's like a very different. Like I don't go out. I go out and enjoy, but I also go out with like, what's my escape route?
Can I just say something? I mean, I'm not obviously a US citizen, but I've always had a thing. I was about to say chubby, but maybe not say that. What America is about, where it came from, how it was formed. I mean, it's still a pretty young new country in the grand scheme of things. And it's a very good idea. It's a very good exercise in democracy. I mean, people trash it and do whatever, but it's an amazing place. And when people say make America great, I always go, I'm sorry, when does it stop being great? It's phenomenal. We're shooting holes now, excuse the pun, in a lot of the things going wrong, but I think it's got a lot going for it. I do. What I find sad is that even Americans need to pick up a book and realize how their country came about. And this thing with guns is extraordinary because it's not actually about guns. It's about feeling confident in your freedom. It's supposed to be a country. It was designed by people who were getting away from all that king and monarchy crap and forming their own future, their own territory, deciding what they wanted to do. And linked into that was lots of unknowns. They were in a strange new place, and guns were a way to defend themselves. And it's locked up in the pursuit of freedom, in confidence, in belief. And that I don't have a problem with. I think it's great. It's a frontier mentality. It's, you know, I mean, Montana, you know, these amazing places, and they didn't know what was around the next corner of the next hill. It was exciting. They wanted to protect themselves. And I get that. It's absolutely fine. Protecting yourself is not a problem. But somehow it's become an offensive thing now. Now that's the gun thing. Now, and then people say, you can't take away our guns. It's not about taking away the guns. It's taking away the stupidity and understanding why people would feel the need to, as you say, Steve, sort out their crap with a gun. And now I'm hearing the gun people saying, exactly, it's not the guns that kill people, it's the people that use the guns kill people. Yeah, well, whatever. But there's such a preponderance of guns and so much stupidity that it's such a bad mix. It really, you know, wow. Anyway.
No, I agree. Anyway. I agree. But here, on another note, while we talk about guns and Tennessee and brothers and sisters divorce and marriage and all that crap, a rest in peace is coming, an RIP, Tupperware, who started in 1946.
Wow, yes.
They're filing with the SEC, was just reading it, and it said that they have to, under the disclosures, that they may have to file bankruptcy next month because they cannot sustain what's going on. And this is Tupperware. I mean, like, we all use Tupperware because I guess we're using other things now, like, I don't know, guns. But anyway, so Tupperware, we'll be doing.
Well, you need a Tupperware container to put your bullets in, so they keep dry. You know?
I was going to say, you need a Tupperware container for the bullets. You need a Tupperware container to put your gun in. I would tell you something very funny. Before, like humidors. So when we have to cure a humidor before cigars, and we get cigars and we don't have enough humidors, and you have to buy a larger humidor or something, what do we use? We use Tupperware to keep the cigars fresh till we can do it. So I'm not sure what's going to happen when Tupperware goes away. I mean, I know there's knockoff brands, but they just say that they can't sustain, and they have been a member of the New York Stock Exchange forever. So I think Tupperware is.
What was it? I looked at it this morning. It was 148 or something. $1.48 a share. It's really come off. And I mean, one of the issues about them is they haven't been able to protect the brand.
True story. It used to be a thing. I don't know whether this was the case outside of this country, but I think it was that Tupperware. You couldn't buy Tupperware. It wasn't something you could just walk into a shop and buy. You had to. You had to go to. Yeah, okay, so it was there too. All right. So there was a Tupperware party. So you couldn't. You had to go to a Tupperware party to buy Tupperware. That's the first thing I wanted to say. And when I went away on holiday now, I was at the coast. I went into a shopping center there in Durban, which is on the east coast of the country, and I saw a Tupperware shop actually in a retail center. The first time I've ever seen one. There was a little lady there, and she was selling a Tupperware, but it was a Tupperware branding. I mean, the timing is extraordinary that I would have seen her 2 weeks ago, and now suddenly they're in trouble. I just think it's not just a question of the brand. I'm not sure that people, I don't know, maybe people just don't maybe cook as much as they used to, more takeout, so they don't need Tupperware. I don't know. There's not as so people. You know, they won't like one of the things with Tupperware is people would cook, actually use a stove, make stuff, and then there'd be leftover and bang in the Tupperware. Now, take out, bomb in the trash can. What do you need Tupperware for? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe
one of the things they were saying that it's actually the advancement of refrigeration for food. Okay. So that's the thing. That was for them the real killer.
Yeah, but I put my Tupperware in the fridge. So
yeah, I put my Tupperware in the fridge too.
Yeah. I know. Most people just think.
I will say what we do here. My wife does it. I still like Tupperware. She does not. So what we do is we buy like the big sandwich bags,
absolutely,
and she puts any leftovers in the big sandwich bag. And then this way, when you're done, you don't have to clean it. You just throw the sandwich bag away.
You like a Ziploc bag?
Yeah, like a Ziploc bag. So that's
but that's not very green, though, is it? That's not very green. I mean, at least Tupperware is green. Well,
I think you can get another color too. You can get it in blue and pink and
yeah. But it's I mean, you remember I had the little thumbprint on the top. You had to go.
Yep, when you push it and it pop the air. We keep our dog and cat. We keep the dog and cat food and the big jumbo Tupperwares, and that'll never change. So, but I'm sad to see Tupperware go because it was like I remember
it would be
sad. When we were a kid. Mom would go in the refrigerator, get the Tupperware, and you're like, all right.
Well, it was more of a case when I was very young that there would be all these yummy mummies that came around the house for the Tupperware parties, And then,
that's a whole other show we're going to start doing.
That's a whole other show, yeah.
Yummy mummies. All right, David. That's a whole show we're going to have to discuss. I think.
Yummy. The rise of the Tupperware party and the yummy mummy.
Now they're just called MILFs. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just so basic, Stephen. But so we'll just keep it for yummy mummy, shall we? And
well, Mr. William,
I think, if I may say, if anybody in Tupperware is listening, I think where's he gone?
He's probably been called by some yummy mummy who just needs him.
They need to look at different markets. That's what Tupperware need to do. That's what they need to do. They need to change. You're onto something there, Dave. A yummy mummy market. I mean, have all these guys buying Tupperware there with guns.
No, the problem is, of course, that the yummy mummies are all going to dildo parties now and not going to Tupperware parties. So that's been the death of that, really. So, well, that's true.
What do you put? You see, different market. They're not thinking. They need to think out the Tupperware box.
That's right. They should be a sponsor of the show. That's number one. And number two, now
$1.48. We need to sponsor them, Stephen.
There you go. And I think we should do a whole show with Tupperware and dildos and how you store them, because now I think I have a whole show right there. So
well, it became very old fashioned. It stopped here at 83, I think it stopped, mostly in Europe. Became very old fashioned, and then of course you had all these people in the UK like Ann Summers and stuff who do all the sex toys and the dildo parties, and that was the next big thing for the yummy mummies. So this
is a whole nother show we're going to have to do.
One of the things that I was always been in and around and involved in are these sort of shall we say, pyramid selling. That's not the right word for it, because that's
sex toys. But there's sort of involved with sex toys. Got it. All right.
As well. But just just the way that these things are structured, it's quite.
We see you in a whole different light now, there, David. I can't wait for our next show. See the topics.
Yeah. Well, I think now's the time to push the button
I think so. Mr. Woods will be back next week with us, or as he likes to be called, insert name here.
Name here?
Or next month, I should say. He'll be back next month. So, everybody, thank you for listening and watching. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers, so you should probably be one of them. Tell your friends. If you don't like the show, don't tell anybody.
Thank you so much for listening to this Harold Woods, Rob Vega, whatever the hell he wants to call himself, fellow. You know, this podcast thing, it makes him feel very important, and he's a difficult fellow as it is to deal with. So thank you so much for putting up with him, and do take care.